Alright, so Ionic actually uses the Angular framework. So in this video I want to discuss what Angular 2 is and look at some of the features and some of its syntax before we actually jump in and start working with Ionic. So Ionic 2.0, which is the newer version that we'll be using, uses Angular 2, and then Ionic 1 uses Angular 1, or also known as AngularJS. So it's important to note that these two are very different. AngularJS uses something called scope to bind controllers to templates. Angular 2 doesn't even have scope or controllers. Everything is inside of a component, which in my opinion is much cleaner anyways. Alright, so even if you have experience with AngularJS, you'll still need to learn Angular 2 because it's completely different. Okay, so Angular is a client-side JavaScript framework, and it's a complete framework. It includes a whole bunch of stuff, which I'll talk about in a minute. It was created and maintained by Google. It's used to build web and mobile applications. Obviously, in this case, we're using it to build mobile applications. And it also uses something called TypeScript, which is a superset of JavaScript, meaning that it includes everything JavaScript includes, but also adds some extra features such as classes and static typing. So here's some of Angular 2's features. We have UI components, so everything is built inside of a component, which makes it, which encapsulates it and makes it very easy to work with and separate components. It has a full routing system. All right, so we can assign certain components to certain routes. It also has an HTTP module, which we can use to make get, post, put, and delete requests from APIs. It has an event system. We can easily apply events, templates. It uses interpolation. We can pass dynamic values into templates. It also has lifecycle methods or lifecycle hooks that we can kind of hook into and run certain functionality at certain parts of the loading components. Alright, and there's other stuff too. These are just some of the bigger features. So here's a very simple example of an Angular 2 component. We're importing it up at the top. Now when we're using with Ionic, we will be importing some stuff from Ionic as well. This is just a bare bones Angular 2 component. Alright, then we have this @ component with it, which is called a decorator, and this allows us to assign metadata to our component. So the selector is hello, so what we would do is we would put in a tag, an XML-like tag, into our HTML, and it would be hello because that's what we specified here, and that's where the component would show up. Okay, we can also assign a template URL, in this case hello.component.html. That's the actual markup that would parse. You can also use just template here, and you can put actual HTML inside of quotes. Alright, let's see, we have the class, which in this case is called hello component, and we have one property here of message or MSG, and we assign that to a string. Since we're using TypeScript, we can use static typing. Then we have a constructor, and we're setting this.message to the text hello world. Okay, so this.message pertains to this property right here. And then we have another function called say hello, and it's going to alert this.message. Okay, whatever properties we set up here, we can access from any function in the class with using the this keyword. Alright, so Ionic has a generator, so we can easily generate components. Now in Ionic, they're actually called pages, and they're stored in a pages folder. If you're just using Angular 2, they're not referred to as pages, but in Ionic they are. So to create a page, we can say Ionic G page, and then whatever we want to call it. Okay, we can also create a service or a provider with Ionic G provider my service. Okay, so a service is used when you want to, basically when you want to add functionality or access data from multiple components. Instead of putting the same code in each component, you can use a service and you can kind of spread that across all the different components. Okay, so if we're making an HTTP request, for example, using the HTTP module, you want to do that in a service so that you can access that data from all different components, not just one. Okay, and you don't have to repeat yourself. So that's what a service is, and we can easily generate it with this command here. Alright, so that's a very quick rundown of Angular 2. You're going to learn more as we move along, so let's go ahead and get into the next video.